Now, Power Rangers and Super Sentai always have to deal with one thing: a limited budget. It's a great action-adventure series with fun, characters, drama, but still, it's always going to have a modest budget, and the crews have to always come up with creative ways when dealing with these issues. In many cases, Power Rangers doesn't have access to props, Zords, all the time, so they end up using the actual toys produced for the series. The most common toy that's used in the series are the Morphers. Very rarely do they ever make an original prop. The Morphers, specifically the Super Sentai versions, look pretty good on camera, and some exceptions where they have to do some modifications to the toy to either cover up screw holes, or they have to deal with some sizing issues like in Dino Charge with the 6 Rangers Morpher. The hand part on the original toy is child size, so it wouldn't work for the actor. So they take off the original handle part and produce a full-size version of it to connect with the toy. The toys appear on the show in various different ways.
Captured in bubbles.
Now, this one was not actually shown on MMPR. They actually cut this footage from the original Ranger episode. The Guardian Beasts, or the Dino Zords, were captured and sealed away in these plastic bubbles. But they couldn't use the actual motorized props that they used for all the special effects shots. Instead, they actually used the original Bandai Deluxe toys for these scenes. And they even ran into the problem of King Brachion's tail being so long, they kind of couldn't even fit it inside the bubble.
Lightning collection machine.
And even after 30 years, they still will drop back to using toys if they have to. And in this case, Rita Repulsa's time machine in Once and Always. Her stealing various ranges around Earth and using their suit energy to power a time portal in order to go back to 1993. But if you look closely in Rita's machine, they actually use the Lightning Collection figures. Now, some of them have been modified. Mainly Jason, Tommy, and Kimberly's figures were modified so that you don't actually see the joints. But look at the other ones and you will clearly see that they're the Lightning Collection figures.
Ninja Ultrazord.
Now, in MMPR Season 3, they were combining multiple elements from different seasons of Super Sentai, so that caused problems with them having to merge elements from the seasons that didn't work together. And in this case, this came the Ninja Ultrazord. So how do they use them together? They actually use the Bandai America toys. So when you watch the Ninja Ultrazord formation, you'll notice that Titanus and all the Ninja Zords are using the US stickers. I was really surprised that they did this, and it was actually pretty cool because toy lines are not compatible with each other in that sense, but since Titanus has this opening in the back that's pretty large, you can fit a lot of different Zords in the back of him. So the team was like, well, they never got rid of Titanus. He wasn't blown up or anything from season 1. He just kind of disappeared. So they decided to bring him back and form the Ninja Ultrazord. The thing that I never understood, they went through all this effort to film this original material with the toys. They only showed it once.
Shogun Ultrazord.
And just like the Ninja Ultrazord, we also got the Shogun Ultrazord. And that's the reason why on the show we see the pink Shogun Zord, even though it didn't make any sense because it was on screen. So that's the reason why we have that continuity error in the series. What I also noticed is I don't think they knew how to transform the toy correctly. When Titanus goes into his attack form, the claws on the front are removed. In the show, they left it attached. Another thing that's actually missing from the toy is that on the Dragonzord chest piece, the little piece that connects on the bottom was also removed. I always wondered what happened in here. Did they remove it on purpose, or did someone just simply forget to actually attach it? And it was really cool and nice to bring back Titanus because it never made sense why he was just simply dropped. They should have simply destroyed Titanus, or simply say, he was converted into Tor the Shuttle Zord like all the other Zords.
Chrono Blaster.
Now for Time Force, they didn't have an original sidearm. I guess maybe because this was supposed to be this futuristic show, they wanted to keep a sleek look, and so they decided not to have sidearms. But in Power Rangers' case, since they were leaning in more of the police aspect of Time Force, they actually created the Chrono Blaster. So they decided to use the Chrono Blaster toy. Luckily enough, the toy was actually scaled pretty good where it would fit an adult, and it was detailed fairly well. As long as the camera never got too close to it where you notice the rubber front on the top, it held up really well. And I kind of understand why Power Rangers does that, because I had found out, for example, Power Ranger Samurai, the props of the swords that they got from Shinkenger, they said that they cost around $10,000 to produce. And these things are going to be thrown around, potentially broken, because they're going to be used in fights. So it makes sense to grab the toys off the shelf. This $20 toy, and if it breaks, who cares? Just go buy one again.
Blade Blaster.
Now, the Blade Blaster was kind of a weird issue. For the most part, they did get the original Jew Ranger prop. But in some circumstances throughout all 3 years, even in Once and Ranger, the Blade Blaster ended up being the toy for various different times. It's possible the reason why this happened is that they didn't get that many of the original Jew Ranger props, so they only had like maybe 3 or 4, and then they had to stick the toy inside their holster. If you pay attention, you'll notice very easily when they use the original prop versus a toy. And in most cases, the way the holster works on the MMPR suits is that the bottom part is actually a fake part of the Blade Blaster. It's sewn into the holster itself so that basically the real Blade Blaster they can pull out and transform goes in and then slides into that bit so that it doesn't potentially fall out and it will look neat whenever they're fighting. If you ever pay attention when they put the toy version in, it's very small compared to the holster, and it's particularly noticeable when Adam comes back in Once a Ranger.
Rescue Blaster.
Now for the Rescue Blaster in Lightspeed Rescue, I can't recall any time did they actually have access to the original prop, and pretty much they've always used the original toy. But if you pay attention, you'll notice it has the Power Ranger sticker on it instead of it just being blank like it's supposed to be from the original prop.
Astro Blaster.
The Astro Blaster had the same fate as Rescue Blaster, although not as often. They did get access to the original props that they used from Mega Ranger, but like in MMPR, they didn't have it all the time, or they didn't have that many. So in some cases, especially during Forever Red, they ended up using the toy, which is fairly obvious. The nose is very shiny because it was made of chrome, and it kind of pop down. So if you ever notice during certain fights and whenever they move it really quickly, some cases the nose will come down and you'll notice where all the electronic lights. It was a strange thing with the Astro Blaster because in 1 minute you'll see them have the full-size prop, they'll change camera angles, and the next minute Andros will be holding the toy. I never understood what happened. It's possible that over time when they were filming, they probably ended up damaging the prop where they couldn't use it anymore. So they said, all right, during certain scenes we'll have to use the toy instead.
Shogun Zord Special Attack.
Now, not every time in Super Sentai do they use the original filming models to do either transformation or special effects, which in case the Shogun special attack where they're on their shoulders and they're doing that, tornado move, they decided to use the Shogun toys. The obvious thing that you'll notice is that their hands. It's possible in order to do the tornado move, they probably had to glue the toys together in order to keep them upright and while they were doing the spinning, and it's possible that the filming models were much more harder to work with, so they decided to use the toys for this particular attack move.
Captured in bubbles again.
And for the last one on my list is again, being captured in bubbles turns you into toys. I personally think they did this on purpose. The Bakuryu in a particular episode were captured. They didn't have to do it with the toys. They could have used the models and just had them simply stand stationary like they did. But I think it was an homage to what happened in Jew Ranger. For me, I never really had a problem when Power Rangers used the toys for either props, in Power Rangers' case where they usually don't have access to all the materials from Super Sentai, whether they're afraid of breaking the prop. Of course you can say, it's cheap and cheesy. Surprisingly enough, the toys do stand up pretty well being on screen. Now, these are not the only instances of Power Rangers using the toys, but I think these were the kind of the ones that were interesting to talk about. It just shows you what they go through in type of the production. But what do you guys think? Did you ever mind seeing the toys used on the show and saying, this looks really cheesy, why couldn't they, use the actual props in the series? Or did you find it funny and charming like me, where it's like, you know what, it's fine. Use the toys if you ever need it. As long as they're not in your face and being obvious with the toys, use them as you wish. If you have a suggestion or a topic you'd like me to cover, leave a comment down below and I may use it in next week's video.